And of course, welcome back to our beautiful chamber quarters here for the first time in a while. My name is Mary W. Sharp, and I will be serving as your chairperson today. We will begin this morning's meeting with a roll call. Mr. Whitehead, would you proceed, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Fleming? Here. Mr. McKinnon? Here. Mr. Gill? Here. Dr. Pritchard?
Here.
Ms. Wilbanks?
Here.
Dr. Pritchard? Called you. One, two, three, four, five. Mr. Tolles? Here. And Chair Sharp?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Whitehead. I would like to remind you that copies of today's agenda are located at the back of the room if you need them. If you wish to be a speaker on any case that is on today's agenda, please fill out an attendance speaker's card. Once you have filled out the card, please bring it up front and hand it to one of our OPD staff members located in the front of the chamber below the podium desk. When the agenda item is called, you will be given an opportunity to speak. At this point, I would like to read our conflict of interest statement. The adopted policy of the Land Use Control Board requires that any member of the board recuse himself or herself from any participation in the discussion or voting on any matter on the meeting's agenda in which he or she may have direct or indirect personal interest. The member shall vacate his or her seat during deliberation on any matter from which they have recused themselves. An abstention may substitute for a recusal for the purposes of maintaining a quorum. I would now like to get approval of our minutes from the May 13th meeting. May I have a motion?
I so moved.
It has been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Mr. Whitehead, may I please get a secretary's report for this month and an explanation of today's procedures?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, the secretary's report, usually I reserve this time to update the body on those cases that it voted on, and then it proceeded to the city council or county commission. The city council, as is their tradition over the past several years, typically does not hear land use cases during budget season, so we don't have much of an update from that body, but the county commission does not share that moratorium, and they have approved the two residential developments that this body heard last month, the case on Walnut Grove and the case on Shelby Drive. Our procedures will be as follows. Once we review the consent calendar, and the consent calendar will be reserved for those cases where there's no opposition cards being submitted, we will proceed to our regular public hearings. For each of the public hearings, we will first hear from staff from the Division of Planning and Development, who will provide a presentation with maps, site plans that describe the general request. Then that will be followed by the applicant. And following the applicant's presentation, supporters of the applicant and his or her supporters are given 10 minutes. Follow that 10-minute period of time, we will go to the opposition, who will also have a 10-minute total period. Since we have a few cases with multiple cards, the suggestion is to those people in opposition, just use their time wisely, so we allow everybody to speak and not repeat perhaps things that the previous speaker said. Following that 10-minute period, we'll go back to the applicant for a 2-minute rebuttal period. After the public hearing portion of the case is completed, the body will make a motion, have a second, and then deliberate on the matter and then vote. And then we will go to the next matter. With that, Madam Chair, I'll hand the floor over to you.
Again, if any member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support or in opposition to a case, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card. These are available at the front podium. Speaker's cards are not required of applicants since their names are already part of the record. Are there any announcements, recognition of visitors, etc.? Mr. Whitehead? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. The board is a supporter of community involvement, and we welcome neighborhood comments and feedback. We are very respectful of the fact that many of you have taken off work or adjusted your schedules to be here today. But we ask that your comments be made within the time frame allowed, and we will be holding you to that time frame. If there are multiple speakers, please try not to be repetitive so as to make the most of your side's 10-minute time limitation. Lastly, I'd like to ask you all to silence your cell phones so as not to interrupt or disturb anyone during today's proceedings. We're now going to move to the consent agenda. With our procedures now explained, I would like to introduce you to my right to Ms. Lisa Wilbanks, who will be this morning's consent agenda chairperson. Ms. Wilbanks will read items 1 through 18 as the consent agenda. Once the consent agenda is read, if you wish to discuss one of these items individually, please come forward and give us the item number, and we will pull that case. We will then vote on the remaining consent agenda items as one vote, and following the vote, we will hear the cases that were pulled individually. Ms. Wilbanks, will you proceed, please?
Madam Chair, I think I'll fill in for Ms. Wilbanks since we're still going through some speakers cards. And in about 3 seconds, I'll be completed with those, and so we'll know which cases need hearings. So the following, if we don't have your speaker's card for whatever reason, or we've not seen it, and I'm calling out a case that's going to be heard on the consent, raise your hand, and we will not place it on the consent, and we'll have a full public hearing on it. So again, the consent agenda, or otherwise known as the consent calendar, is reserved for those cases with no opposition and no contested conditions of approval from the applicant. So once we place these items on the consent calendar, they will be voted in toto by the board, and we will then go on to the contested cases. So, Madam Chair, we will begin with item number 2, agenda item number 2, that's PD 2021-11. That is a 3-lot residential plan development at Tanglewood and Salisbury in Cooper Young. Agenda item number 3, that's major MJR 2021-17. That is a mini storage at Houston Levee. If placed on consent, that would be a 1-month hold. So we'll hear it next month. The same is true for item number 4, MJR 2021-18. That is a restaurant with a drive-through window at 8326 Macon. Again, if on consent, that would be approved as a 1-month hold. Same for number 5, MJR 2021-19. That is to allow a front yard setback reduction at 6611 Kirby Center Cove. Item number 6, Madam Chair, can be placed on consent as approval with a friendly condition. Those friendly conditions deal with site plan condition number 1, striking that condition so it can read instead, quote, any fencing enclosing the employee parking area or facing East Holmes Road shall be black vinyl chain link. Barbed wire may be permitted with the inclusion of additional aesthetic improvements such as continuous hedge row or combination of hedgerow and tree plantings to break up the fencing facade, comma, subject to review and approval by staff. Friendly amendment number 2, and the last would be striking through site plan condition number 2 as it's written in your staff report and replacing it with, quote, any fencing facing Holmes Crest Lane shall be black vinyl chain link. Barbed wire may be permitted with the inclusion of additional aesthetic improvements such as continuous hedgerow or combination of hedgerow and tree planting to break up the fencing facade, comma, subject to review and approval by staff, end quote. So if placed on consent, number 6 would be as conditioned by staff, as amended just now. That brings us to item number 7, MJR 2021-22 in the county. This is an expansion of a mental health clinic at 7900 Lowrance. And that would be approval, consent as approval. We will hear number 8, and we will hear number 9. That brings us to Number 10, which is S 2021-22 in West Haven. That's a proposal for a 6-lot subdivision on the southwest side of Lake Vernell Drive. And that would be approval, consent as approval. Number 11, PD 2113. That's a planned development to allow commercial cleaning business at 3969 and 3975 Giraldus. That again is consent as approval. Item number 12, we will hear, since staff is recommending rejection. Item number 13, there is a change in the printed agenda that is available at the front desk here. That would be a consent as a hold, a 1-month hold. That is PD 2021-17 in Hillshire, and that's a warehouse development at the terminus of Murray Farms Road. Again, consent as a 1-month hold. We will hear 14. We will not hear 15 because it's a consent as a 1-month hold. Number 15 is 2021-19, a 13-lot residential development at 5486 and 5502 Park. Number 16 is consent as approval. That is item SUP 2021-9. That's a wedding and event center on the west side of Collierville, Arlington, just north, 6,000 feet north of Shelton Road. And finally, number 17 we'll hear, and number 18 is a consent as a 1-month hold. SUP 2021-12, that's a gas station at 3521 Lamar. Ms. Wilbanks, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay. The items on the consent agenda will now be voted on with 1 vote, subject to the recommendation of the OPD. If the consent agenda is approved, then only items number 1, 8, 9, 12, 14, and 17 will have a full independent public hearing. By voting on the consent agenda, each board member is affirming that he or she has read the staff report and agrees with its findings where applicable, its recommendation and conditions. Can I get a motion, please, from our consent agenda chair, please?
Yes, ma'am. Move to approve item number 2, case PD 2021-011. Item number 3, case MJR 2021-017 County. Item number 4, case MJR 2021-018. Item number 5, case MJR 2021-019. Item number 6, case MJR 2021-021. Item number 7, case MJR 2021-022 in the county. Item number 10, case S 2021-022. Item number 11, case PD 21-013. Item number 13, case PD 2021-017. Item number 5, case PD 15. Case PD 2021-019. Item number 16, case SUP 2021-009 in the county. And item number 18, case SUP 2021-012.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and I hear a second. Is there any discussion amongst our board members? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Dr. Pritchard, we're ready for the regular agenda.
Agenda item number 1, PD 2021-005, Southwest Memphis, Senior Living Community between Dodd and Coro Roads, south of Shelby. Staff recommendation is approval with outline plan conditions.
Thank you, Dr. Pritchard. Is the applicant present? Is the applicant present? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Okay, I have the cards here for the opposition. Okay, since we do have opposition, we will have a staff report.
Chair, Mr. Davis is doing a dual sign-in to prevent the Land Use Control Board PowerPoint from ever being held up for ransomware.
So,
We're waiting on it
It's
to log
coming
in.
right.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all again after the last year and a half or so. Okay, so I'll be presenting just a brief presentation on the first case on this morning's agenda, PD 21-5, the Cora Vista PD. It's a residential development. So we're looking at Southwest Memphis near Cora Lake, 1560 Drew Road and an adjacent parcel. The owners are Cora Vista LLC and Shelby County Schools. It's the site of a former public school. The applicant is Cora Vista, represented by Ms. Brenda Salamito. The area is approximately 20 acres, and the site is split zoned between two different single-family residential zoning districts, Residential 6 and Residential 10. The site has frontages on two local streets, Coro and Dodd Roads. So here is more precisely where we're looking, south of Shelby and southwest Memphis. Here's the vicinity map. So we see the two frontages are not connected. Dodd to the west, Coro to the east. There's a large vacant parcel to the south. Here's an aerial photograph with zoning. It's not so easy to see on these screens, but approximately the eastern half of the site is R10 and the western half R6, and it's surrounded by mostly residential zoning with some heavy industrial zoning to the west. The land use map reflects that, except without any of the industrial uses. Most of the uses are single-family residential. You see that there's an HOA to the east with a lake held in common ownership and quite a bit of vacant land. Some photographs of the site. You see the clearing on top where the school once stood and views down both roads at the bottom of your screen. These roads do not have curb, sidewalk, or gutter. Here's the proposed outline plan, which proposes dividing the acreage up into about 8 areas, some of which are reserved for common open space, including a lake with a walking trail to be built, one area, and that's in the sort of the southwest. To the east of that is a land reserved for a proposed independent living apartment building. And most of the rest is reserved for small lot single-family homes, which would not be permitted under the minimum lot size of the underlying zoning districts. Finally, there is a quote-unquote buffer district of larger lot homes that I don't believe would be age-restricted along the east on Cora Road fronting the existing subdivision. And this is that outline plan drawn in. So all houses do take alley access. As conditioned, there would be some changes required to this plan, likely including streetscaping on the two public roads, as well as perhaps multiple entry points. And that's just by tying the development approval to UDC standards. And here are some conceptual renderings submitted by the applicant, the houses and apartment building, interior streets. Here's the Memphis 3.0 future land use map. It does shade most of this land as public and quasi-public buildings and uses. That's most likely in reference to the school that once existed on the site. It's surrounded by a single-family future land use designation. Staff does find that this request is consistent with the quasi-public building future land use designation as a somewhat institutional use. that use being senior housing. So in conclusion, the underlying zoning is residential single family. Part of the site is owned by Shelby County Schools and once contained a school. Staff does find that this meets the various approval criteria, and the final plan review will need to be conducted, meaning that the plan contained in your staff reports is not finalized if this plan is approved by City Council. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay, do we have any questions of Mr. Davis at this time? Hearing none, we're ready to hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Brenda Salamito Baser, Salamito Land Planning, 1779 Kirby Parkway, Memphis. And we have a presentation for you as well. While we bring that up, I want to let you know how excited we are about this proposal. This proposal in the Westwood area, according to my research, would be the first new recorded development in this area since the 1960s, since the late 1960s. So we're excited to be able to provide some new construction homes for the residents down here. We've had the last 2 or 3 months been able to coordinate and meet with all the residents and other organizations like Uplift Westwood and the Coral Lake Homeowners Association and other interested members and residents in the Westwood area. Today we have our applicant and owner with us, so we'll be able to give him an opportunity to speak as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, just show her how to do it. Thank you.
JC, you know that.
Okay, next slide, please. This is sort of a regional area that shows you the proximity of our proposed development, the Coral Vista Plan development with relationship to Coral Lake, and also the regional park called the Dalstrom Regional Park. It's within walking distance. We are directly west of the Coral Lake subdivision across from Coral Lake Road. As you can see, this is it's a dated version of the existing conditions because the school property there in the center has been demolished, so it is 100% vacant property. Right now, the school was demolished in 2017. We're located at the northwest corner there of Coral Road and Drew Road. Over the years, many houses have been abandoned, and the area around Dodd Road especially has been the target of illegal dumping. And we have been watching over the last several months to see the progression of some of these activities, and hopefully with new development becomes the ability to clean up some of this area, new activity, new sets of eyes coming down to help remedy this situation. There's also a lot of new construction going on in the Coral Road area, also specifically the Coral Lake subdivision, with some of the larger estate homes. So now for our proposed development. As Mr. Davis stated, it will be a mixture of the single family and one multifamily building, a 55 and older gated community with offering opportunity for mobility within the Westwood community. That's one of the things that we heard from a lot of the residents is that they want to stay in the Westwood community, but there are not a lot of opportunities to go to a community like this where it has a lot of amenities or to go where there's low or no maintenance associated with the property that you own. This was very well received by many of the neighbors in Westwood. This is a more detailed plan of the conceptual site plan showing the lake, walking areas, the active and passive recreation areas, as well as the bulk requirements of this planned community. And this is a color rendering. And if you'll look to the east along Coral Road, you'll see there are estate lots that provide the transition from the estate lots at Coral Lake subdivision to some green space. Then we have our senior single-family housing, then the multifamily building, and then our lake with our walking trails and active and passive recreation on site. We looked at the property because the existing traffic from the school when it was there provided somewhat of a higher intensity AM and PM peak traffic times. So when we looked at the traffic that would be generated by 55 and older community and compared that to what it would be if it developed under the current zoning, which would be the R6 and the R10. And based upon the data from the ITE manual, this development provides 220 fewer trips per day than if it would develop under the standard R6 and R10 zoning district regulations. And now we'll go through a series of some of our renderings to give you a little bit of a better feel for how the property will develop. So this would be the entrance off of Coral Road near Drew Road. This is sort of a bird's eye view of the entire development as it lies between Dodd Road and Coral Road. This is also a bird's eye view of the amenity area where the lake is and the rear view of the multifamily with the pedestrian walk around the lake. And this is sort of a connection to Dodd Road and how we would anticipate the single-family homes with the garages, with it fully being brought up to the sidewalk for a nice pedestrian-friendly street activity type development. Access to the rear and then the green space as you approach Dodd Road. This is also a view of the tree-lined streetscapes. This is a bird's eye view of the estate homes that will face Coral Road and provide that transition into the Coral Lake subdivision. As you can see, these will be the larger lots, larger homes, and will provide that transition and buffer to the Coral Lake. Another view of how the topography works on Coral Road with the tree-lined streets. Another view of our amenity area. And then the final, this would be a view of the multifamily. Now on the first floor, this will sort of act as the community area as well, where the community passive recreation, clubhouse, activity centers.
Madam Chair, the applicant has 2 minutes remaining.
So that is where we anticipate this community's activities, their clubhouse, and everything to be on the first floor of this building. And the remainder will be residences. We're here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the applicant at this time?
Madam Chair, I do have one question on the, Ms. Baser, on the units themselves. They're depicted in these graphics as all being identical. Could you just talk to us a little bit about how there might be some variation or not, or just what the thought process is there, please?
So this is obviously for representation purposes. The applicant, the developer, has engaged Brad Shapiro Architecture, to work with us once this concept has been approved. And then there will be variations. I mean, they will all be compatible, but for right now, this is just a representation. Mm-hmm.
Any more questions of the applicant at this time? Okay, we're ready for the opposition. You have 10 minutes, and we have about 5 cards, so about 2 minutes each. Would you come and introduce yourself, please, and give us your name and address?
The question is,
Just
you want
one.
all of us to come up?
No,
at
just
once?
one at a time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
I am Dr. Sherry Jeffries Compton, and I'm speaking on behalf of 33 members of the HOA Association who are not here today, but who want to voice their opposition for this project. As you may know, just in the last few days or so, we were notified that this would not be a Zoom meeting, but we would have to show up in person. Many of these folks do work. 3 of them are out of town, and some of them were delayed because of the weather and what have you, but they are adamant in their opposition to this proposal. For one thing, many of them just heard about it a few days ago, simply because there was limited notification to the HOA members. When they heard about it and heard that it would be very much like an apartment complex, many of them just went ballistic. So my phone has been burning up in the last few days or so, saying, be sure and say that we are opposed. We have sent those notifications to our HOA president. And by the way, there is no formal notification from our HOA president that we are in any way in support of this development. The HOA has decided, because so many folks are opposed to this, that there's no way we could go on record as approving it. And just a couple of things I want to say before our other HOA members come up and speak as well. In the last few days, the HOA members who are opposed to this have decided the best approach for now, as far as what we see, is to buy the property ourselves. I believe there's an option on it right now, but to buy it and develop walking trails, have a community meeting place, a community garden, things that would benefit the folks who are already vested and believe in Coral Lakes. If you know this subdivision, you know it's very special. Whenever I say I live on Coral Lake, pretty much anybody over 40 knows what I'm talking about. And the first thing they say is, it's a beautiful place. You really have diversity. You have people who love this city, because many of us had options to move other places. So with that, I want to go ahead and yield my time and let other members speak. Thank you all.
Madam Chair, as the next speaker comes, can you speak from the center podium? I just got a note that that podium is coming through a little scratchy on the YouTube feed. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Terry Bentley. I live at 4764 Coral Road. I have a letter here, Madam Chairperson, from a neighbor that was not able to attend because of a doctor's appointment. May I read it?
I can't hear you very well.
My name is Terry Bentley. Live at 4764 Coral Road. I have a letter here from a neighbor that was unable to attend because of a doctor's appointment. May I read it? To whom it may concern, as a property owner of Coral Lake, I must ask that you do not approve the proposed housing project that is planned for our neighborhood. Proposed development is intended for elderly people who, alone with visiting children and grandchildren, will be tempted to gravitate toward our lake. And I can visualize a terrible accident happening if one or more falls into our lake and drowns. There have been several of our residents who have drowned in Coral Lake in the past few years, as well as a group who drowned in our sister lake, Robco Lake. I am also in opposition of the project because of the safety road conditions on Coral Road. We have too many hills and too many curves on our road. It's an ongoing problem around our lake. People do not realize the driving conditions, no sidewalks, the roads are somewhat narrow. Lighting in some points at night is not that good. We do have street lights. Coral Road, one of the curves between Drew Road and Shelby Drive is at a point where you have to slow down to about 20 miles an hour to make that curve safely. Beyond that speed, you will be in the opposing lane. We've had a number of accidents where people have driven off in the lake. I presented some pictures to Brett Davis. You might have seen them. One incident was at that curve 2 weeks before our snowstorm, and it was a straight shot. Instead of making the curve, they took a straight shot, and that straight shot was to the lake. If it hadn't been for a small group of trees there at that point, they would have gone in the lake. And the pictures do show the tire marks at that point where the trees stopped them. So I'm asking you to please consider the road conditions. You might can go to a map and see the outlines of the roads and the hills that we have, and get a better understanding of the safety for our residents and everyone involved. When we had the school up there, faculty, students, parents bringing their kids to school were driving beyond the speed limit. It still happens with residents, non-residents. We have delivery drivers that round that curve at all times of the day, and they got it floored to top the hill because they're in a hurry. A lot of people are in a hurry down there, it seems like, and it's very difficult to control those situations because we're so isolated. Back in 2006, we had another development that was proposed, and a resident sent in a letter, and his letter was basically the same outline is what we're in opposition here about the road conditions. And at that time, he mentioned, this is in 2006, he mentioned that we do not even have road signs around our lake for stop signs or yields. To this day, we still do not have those. And we have contacted the city regarding this, and to no avail, they have not been put up. So accidents, I think, will incur because you have 120 residents that would be proposed there. You can about double that traffic, and with additional services that be coming in and out there, it would be a little bit more than that.
Okay, you only have 2 minutes, and we have 2 more speakers left, so.
Thank
you
you.
could. Okay. Thank you. There's two more speakers, two more in opposition. You have a minute apiece.
Morning. I'm Michael Compton, 5021 Coro Road. I sent a communication to y'all last night by email. I know it's kind of late. If y'all haven't got a chance to look at that, I hope you'll be able to later. So I won't go over all of that except for a couple of things. One is a correction. I referred to Coral Vista's numbers on the traffic. I said 445 additional vehicle trips a week. It's actually a day. Those are their own numbers. So they compare it to an imaginary development that is a maximum development. It's probably not going to happen, but what's compared to what we have now, that's an additional 200, 300 cars going up and down Coral Road, as Terry talked about, which can be very treacherous. The other thing is their pictures are a little out of date. They're presenting this as some sort of saving kind of project for our area, like we're a neighborhood in decline. That may have been true a few years ago, but we do have new construction, as they did show, where houses are being rehabbed. My own house was rehabbed a few years ago that we bought. There's the house with the tree on it that you may have seen a picture of. That tree is gone. That house has been repaired. I think people have moved into it or they're about to. They've got a boat parked out in front of it anyway. So I think we're actually a neighborhood on the rebound. And I think what we don't need is, it's already a de facto retirement community, which is kind of why it has declined a bit over the last decade. I don't think we need more retirees. I think we need more single-family homes with young adults, with children, that will be more in keeping with the neighborhood as it is now, then we'll revitalize it, not just make it a retirement place. But I want to finish with what a special place Coro Lake is. I don't know how well y'all know it. About 147 residences on about 125 acres of land around a 95-acre lake. So it's very spread out. It's semi-rural. It's a beautiful place. First thing I noticed when I moved in there was you can see the stars at night. More so than you can see just a few blocks away into the city. With this thing, it's going to be like a 20-acre floodlight. If you've ever been in an apartment complex, that will be gone. There's the wildlife that I don't have to enumerate, but the most amazing thing is the pelicans. A lot of people don't know there are pelicans in Memphis. We get them every year. Sometimes just a half dozen or so, sometimes over 100. They come every Christmas. They don't come to the places like Chickasaw other lake areas like Chickasaw Gardens Lake or Walnut Grove Lake or Audubon Park Lake. They come to our place.
Hate to interrupt you, but your 2 minutes are up, and we're going to give the last speaker 30 seconds.
All right, thank you.
30 seconds, sir.
My name is Billy McElwain. I live at 5069 East Shore Drive, across the lake from this proposed development. Every morning I sit in my window in my kitchen and look at that beautiful lake. I don't want to look at a 4-story apartment building every morning the rest of my life. I'll leave it at that and make it short.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do you have any questions that we want to ask the opposition before we give the applicant her 3-minute rebuttal period? Do you have any questions you want for the opposition at this time? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for your 3-minute rebuttal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I'll make it brief. I do want to address a couple of the comments from the opposition, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gerald Robinson, who's the applicant and the owner. And we had several meetings. I can't speak to the internal communication with regard to Coral Lakes. I know we had mandatory meeting for everyone in the entire area. We had another Zoom meeting just with Coral Lake. We had either 2 or 3 in-person meetings on site. And then there was active communication with several members of their board of directors. I've attended, I know, two of their homeowners association meetings that happen every month on a Tuesday. I personally attended 2 of those. So I'm sorry, but I can't speak to the internal communication with regard to Coral Lakes. We know that the neighbors of Coral Lake specifically were sort of mixed on this proposal. Some wanted the retirement community so there were no children. Others obviously said they would like more families. That is the split between the neighbors there on Coral Lake. But I will say, outside of Coral Lake, we had 100% support from Uplift Westwood, Mr. Charles Everett. There's a letter from Mr. Everett in your packet today at the back of your staff report. We also have 2 other letters of support, from one for Robert and Janine Story, and then Miss Tina Frazier. But I do want to introduce Mr. Gerald Robinson, who is also a resident of Coral Lake and raised in Memphis.
Good morning, Chairperson Sharp, board members, Director Administrator Whitehead. Gerald Robinson, 4814 Coral Road, Memphis, Tennessee. I am a born and raised Memphian, Lemoyne on college. I have done most of my work in California, but I am here for a special reason. I have been a resident of Coral Lake for almost 20 years now, and I am very, very pleased to bring you this development. I did not expect that anything about it would be controversial, but I know that change can be difficult. It is a beautiful area. It's a low crime rate area. It has an attractiveness to it that makes it very, very special. We're going to simply add to that. The multifamily aspect of this development is simply because some people do not want detached, higher maintenance properties. I mean, they're more of a move down, empty nester. I was there when the principal was there. I've met the principal over at the school, did a lot of research over a lot of years, had a smaller development. When the school property became available, it was a wonderful opportunity. I almost say it was divine intervention that made that happen. That property has been sitting there for years. The sign fell off of it. There was no interest in that property being purchased. We have met with the homeowners there, the residents. I know them. I've been meeting with the board since October, so a lot of what has been said is actually inaccurate. I'm not here to fabricate or debate that, but we do appreciate you looking at this project with all of the special qualities that it will bring to Coral Lake. So with that said, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Board members, do you have any questions of the applicant at this time?
Yes, I do. J.C. McKinney. One question, well, two. Will the single-family homes be fee simple?
They are market rate homes for sale.
Gotcha. Do you have an ARV?
I don't know what ARV is.
A value for sales.
So they are working on that. Gerald can speak to that a little bit better than I can, but I know once we get through city council and appraisals of the property are done with this entitlement, that will affect, because there's not any comparables in this area. So, and then with the continuing increase of construction costs, I think, when we're at least a month down the road, all the prices will be different, quite frankly.
Right.
So sorry to not answer your question, but there's
no, you answered it. You answered it. I understand. I was looking for a number as far as appraisal value range, but if you don't have that, that's not a problem.
No, sir, I'm sorry, we don't.
No problem.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board members too?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would like to ask you, it appears that on Coral Road, you make a transition from the existing homes, and you seem to have some large lots and large homes in that area. Would you tell us basically what type of homes? I think they may be in the handout you gave us, yes, but those look like large lots, and that would make a good transition from the existing into the new.
Yes, sir. If we could put those back up the larger homes. So, well, you can kind of see, but I would show you a picture of maybe some of the concepts. But those large estate homes probably would be, so the residents asked us for a minimum. They wanted a minimum of, I think because Coral Lake has a private covenants and restriction that says 1,200 or 1,500 square feet, and I believe we agreed to exceed that. And it's in some of our meeting minutes, so it's around 1,500, 1,800 square foot minimum heated. This is Mr. Mark Johnson. He is with Gerald's office. And so, single family detached, and we'll show a photograph. There we go. But those will far exceed, those will probably be well into the close to 3,000 square feet, heated square feet, once designed and constructed.
All right.
And again, we have Mr. Brad Shapiro, who will be the architect of record for the development, and then also will serve as his architectural review for the homeowners association. And everything, all the common space will owned and maintained by the association, and including the lakes, the private walking trails.
Okay. All right.
But they'll be gated on the inside. Now, these homes will not be behind the gate. The estate homes will be single family, open to Coral Road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions of the?
Ms. Salamito, one more question. Just for all in this, the fee simple as far as those being sold, that not only includes the ones on Coral Road, but that includes the ones in the actual subdivision, the PD as well?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
Sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none, this closes the public portion of this meeting. Dr. Pritchard, we need a motion.
Move approval of agenda item, wherever it is, 1, case number PD 21-5.
Second.
We have a motion, and I heard a second. Is there any discussion amongst our board members? Is there any discussion amongst our board members? Seeing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Dr. Pritchard.
Next, we'll go to agenda item number 8, S21-017CO, Southeast Shelby County, 3-lot major subdivision at 8960 Forest Meadow. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Is the applicant present? Okay. All right, is there any opposition? There is opposition, so we will hear a staff report at this time.
Good morning, everyone. Teresa Shelton, Municipal Planner for Division of Planning and Development. We're here today for case number S21-017. Applicant is Theodore and America Lyons II. Richard Fleming as the developer. Representative is Delano Smith with Smith Building Design and Associates, Inc. Location is at 8960 Forest Meadow Drive. It's a 3-lot major subdivision. Okay, here's a location map showing where the property is located. You have the vicinity map showing the lots that are involved in this. There were 31 notices mailed out on May 26, 2021. This is a zoning map showing the area and the land use map showing the area. I'm sorry, I made an area on that. It's a CA zoning district. Here is the view of the existing home on the subject property known as lot number 9. Over to the right is a view of the proposed site, which is lot 8. Here's a view of proposed site of lot number 8. It's the second view of it. This is a view of the site to the west of the property line of the subject property. Here is just a view of an existing home on lot 4, which is southeast of the subject property of Forest Meadow Drive. Over to the right, there's an existing home on lot 5 of the subject property, which also had a 2-acre subdivision. And also lot 5, where that was also subdivided into a 3-acre subdivision. Here's a view of the neighboring house on the west side of the property from Forest Meadow Drive. It has a natural buffer, which, to my understanding, is going to remain. This is a picture of the original concept plan. The original plan consisted of the 3-lot subdivision where it would have a private drive that is no longer in force. So this is just like a better view where this would be the private drive right here. These are the 2 lots where they would have been facing that private drive. The developer has agreed to change it to accommodate the residents in the area. So now the property would be facing Forest Meadow, and the private drive is no longer in existence with that. So here's just a better view of what it would look like if this is approved. Here's a previously recorded plat for Forest Meadow subdivision that reflects lot 5 before the subdivision was shown, as shown on my staff report on pages 20 and 22. So as you can see, this is lot 5. This is the subject lots in questions, 8 and 9. And over here is the recorded plat for lot 5 that was subdivided, lots 1 and 2, now known as the Allen Robertson subdivision, which was divided into 2 and 3 acre lots. And this just kind of gives you a little bit better view of when this was done. And this is what is recorded on the registrar's website. The property address is 8919 Forest Meadow Drive and 8905 Forest Meadow Drive. 19 reflects a 3-acre lot. 05 reflects a 2-acre lot. In my conclusion, this is a request for a 3-lot major subdivision. The lot does meet the regulations of the Conservation Agricultural Zoning District, and the subdivision is in character and compatible with existing development of the neighborhood. Requiring curb gutters and sidewalks would be out of character, with the neighborhood. The 2 existing parcels are both legal lots of record and buildable. The subdivision is compatible with and in keeping the character of the development in the neighborhood and conforms with all applicable provisions and requirements of the Unified Development Code. Restricting covenants were placed on the plat by the developer and are privately enforced by its successors, the lot owners, like any other contract. Staff recommends approval with conditions. These are the following conditions. The final site plan, needs to be in substantial compliance with the preliminary site plan contained herein. The existing natural buffer located on the west side of the proposed site shall remain, and all other requirements from the Unified Development Code not specifically mentioned above in conditions 1 and 2 are applicable to this subdivision. And that completes my report. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Shelton. Board members, you have any questions of Ms. Shelton at this time? Hearing none, we're ready to hear from the applicant with your 10-minute presentation.
My name is Delano Smith. I live at 3831 Lakehurst Drive, Memphis, Tennessee. Glad to be here today and glad to see y'all again. We've been out for a while, and thank y'all for having me. Just want to say that this neighborhood, the owner loves this neighborhood. It's a beautiful neighborhood if any of y'all have ever gone out there. We had a great neighborhood meeting, which from our standpoint was very informative. We were able to find the points that they were that the neighborhood was concerned about. And we feel that we met each of those concerns. There were 4 to 5 concerns. One concern was the size of the houses. We were proposing 7,000 square foot houses, and we were proposing about $3 million investment. The neighbors said they were too large, so we sized them down from 7,000 to 5,000 or 4,500, whichever we see will fit best on those 2 lots. They did not want the gated community, so we eliminated that. And went with, they did not want the houses facing the private drive, so we eliminated that and faced the properties, oriented the properties to the facing the Forest Meadow Drive. And they did not want, the neighbors did not want the trees to be cleared, and we in agreement with that also. We're going to maintain the natural buffers to the west and as many trees as possible on the site. And so we feel that we're on one accord and basically addressing each of those issues that they brought forth. The concern about we feel that we are in character with the neighborhood based on the fact that right exactly to the west, the subdivision 2-acre and 3-acre lot has been there for a while. And if you review the photos you have on page 13, there is a image of the 2 houses on those 2 lots. And we didn't, until we did research, we realized that those lots were actually 2- and 3-acre lots, and they do not take away from the character of the neighborhood. They fit in well. See, page 13.
13?
No.
Next one.
Right there. If you see the house there, the White House on the right and the house furthest to the left, those are the 2-acre and 3-acre lots. They fit very, very well into this subdivision, and if you drive past, they don't take away from the character. You would not know that they were 2- or 3-acre lots. And our proposal will exceed the 2- and 3-acre lot proposal right to the west of our. And I would want to reserve the rest of my time for rebuttal and also for the owner. He wants to speak during the rebuttal period. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Smith at this time? Okay, hearing none. We're ready for the...
we are ready for the speaker in support, Dr. Lyons.
I think Mr. Smith indicated that Dr. Lyons would be speaking during the rebuttal period.
I'm so sorry.
And since I think most of the opposition has a representative, Mr. Wardlaw, maybe we start with him first.
Okay, Mr. Wardlaw.
Opposers.
Good afternoon, all. I'm so thrilled to be back in this building. I don't know what to do. Lou Wardlaw, 6410 Poplar Avenue, Memphis, Tennessee. I represent Amy and Clark Barton. They're at 8919 Forest Meadow. Ms. Barton's right over here. They've been dealing with a little bit of a family medical emergency. Otherwise, I think you'd see more of their family here. I'm going to be exceedingly brief and let other neighborhood members talk about issues beside the covenant restrictions that are in place. Staff mentioned them in the staff report and mentioned the idea that those are for a later day, and I disagree, and I'll tell you why. The covenant restrictions are in place. They were put in place when this was built in 1968. They went to 1988, at which point they were automatically and perpetually re-upped. They've never been taken down. They're still there. They still are there right now. They require, under the current conditions of sewage and water, that these be 5-acre minimum lots, unless a simple majority of the neighbors vote to change that rule. There is a subdivision that was mentioned by staff, and you've seen the pictures of it. That happened. There's a 3 and 2 lot. That happened, I believe, in 1983. And if you look at the papers are included, it shows that there was that vote, and that number one was waived for that property. The number one restriction, which is the size. 5 acres is the minimum. There is no such vote here. Those covenant restrictions are in place and are in force. The reason I bring that up, staff says the subdivision is compatible with and keeping with the character of the development in the neighborhood and conforms with the requirements that are out there. And the restrictive covenants placed on the property are to be privately enforced. Well, that's true. We can go to Chancery Court if this goes the way we don't want it, and we can privately enforce this. It's a contract, and I think we'll win on that case. I have a great deal of confidence in that. But this body needs to look at it too. The Land Use Control Board or governing body may reject a preliminary plan if it is determined that the proposed subdivision is not in keeping with the character of development in the neighborhood. And I submit to you today that you cannot be, by definition, in keeping with the character of the development of the neighborhood if you go against the very document that founded the neighborhood and laid down as law, as contract, the character that that neighborhood requires. There are many other reasons that we could address. I'm going to let the other neighbors do that, but I wanted to bring up the contract with these neighbors and their new neighbor, the land developer, and why this body needs to look at that as well as the legal and court system. And I'm here I can answer any questions you have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We have another card from Bill and Carol Lanier. If you don't mind just giving us your name and address, please.
Good morning. My name is Bill Lanier. I live at 8850 Old Creek Road, Memphis, Tennessee, 38125. We are here, my wife and I, Carol, are here to represent the property owners of Forest Meadows and Old Creek Road that adamantly oppose this development. There are a number of people here that are property owners this morning, and if you don't mind, I'd like for them to stand so you can see that they really are opposed to this project. Thank you. In your staff notes, there are 14 letters of opposition, and we can also provide the board with signature roster that indicates 22 signatures of opposition out of the 28 property owners in our combined neighborhood. We have provided each board member a copy of our full presentation. Due to time limitations, we will address our opposition at a high level only. Please refer to this document if you have any additional questions. The application and zone meeting process. The application process is conflicting. Page 1 of the application indicates 4 lots with houses at $750,000, but the intent letter from Mr. Lyons states the division into 3 lots with the existing house to be torn down. During our Zoom call, Mr. Fleming stated the houses to be built would be 3 lots and the houses at about 7,500 square feet with a value of approximately $1 million, and Mr. Lyons' house may or may not be torn down. Last Friday, when the posting of today's agenda, we found out that the subdivision plan has changed with 3 lots now facing Forest Meadows. This revised plan was never discussed in our Zoom meeting, nor have we been given the opportunity to discuss the revised plan with the developer. We feel we have been misinformed and misled throughout this process. The requirement outlining a neighborhood Zoom meeting and the purpose of this meeting in regards to the revised plan have not been met and therefore constitute an application deficiency. The Department of Environmental and Conservation. Requirements outlined in the regulation governing septic systems manual states the following. A soil evaluation shall be conducted by a certified engineer on parcels that are less than 5 acres. It is our concern that Lot 9 may be defined as filled land, as when this lot was previously cleared, the brush and trees were buried, no removal, and the land conditions may not support a septic system. The regulation also outlines the approved by other agencies. No proposed subdivision shall be approved by the state planning agency, a local or regional planning commission, or other agency authorized to approve subdivisions until the plans for subdivisions have been approved by the commissioner. The developer was not able to provide a TDEC report when asked during our Zoom meeting. We believe the requirements outlined by TDEC have not been met and therefore constitute an application deficiency. Stormwater Management Plan. There is an extensive flooding on the properties to the west-northwest of Lot 8. This was intensified when Lot 8 was cleared. To the east of Lot 9, there is a creek which frequently overflows the bank and the culvert flooding Forest Meadows Road. Additional flooding to both the surrounding properties and Forest Meadows Road due to grading, tree removal, and additional landscape would be devastating to the surrounding area. There is no indication that a storm waste management plan report has been submitted or reviewed. Plat restrictions. The subdivision of this property does not conform to the requirements of the plat restrictions for the Forest Meadows subdivision, book 35, page 26. Case as follows. Mr. Lyons received and acknowledged his covenant when he signed the warranty deeds for Lot 8 and Lot 9 on August 24, 2004. When his properties were purchased, they were purchased under the agreement that the terms on the plat restrictions would apply. Every property owner on Forest Meadows and Old Creek have adhered to these restrictions. Please take this into consideration. We ask that you adhere to the bylaws for the Memphis and Shelby County Land Use Board, your mission statement and guiding principles, fairness, wise judgment, and civic passion. The mission statement outlines the protection to the community's unique character and sense of place. Your guiding principles include consistency and respect for all Memphis and Shelby County stakeholders. The application goes against all principles relating to consistency and the protection of our community's character and sense of space. The average lot size in the Forest Meadows subdivision is 5.25 acres, and the average lot size in the Old Creek subdivision is 5.26 acres. We feel the notation under conclusions on page 23, which notes this subdivision is compatible with and in keeping with the character of development of the neighborhood is totally incorrect. We all encourage new development in our neighborhood and would encourage new constructions on Lot 8 and Lot 9 as they are currently platted. Approval of this application and this division of property will forever change our neighborhood. Collectively, we ask that you reject this application based on the above points. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm having trouble with the speaker up here, but board members, do you have any questions of the opposition at this time?
Madam Chair, I have, while the opposition's up, I'd like for Mr. Whitehead to clarify for us the need or the appropriateness of the board to weigh in on covenant deed private restrictions versus zoning ordinances in Memphis 3.0. Would you clarify that so that we can all hear, please?
Sure. Josh Whitehead with the Division of Planning and Development. This body is only responsible for administering the zoning code. This body, or maybe more appropriately, its predecessor, the Planning Commission, when it approved this plat, did not place that condition, the condition that prohibits a re-subdivision of the lots. So it's not responsible for enforcing it or administering it. I think, however, Mr. Wardlaw did do as best a job as I've ever heard tying that specific restrictive covenant to the findings of fact that you're expected to make with any subdivision. Look at the lot sizes of the proposed subdivision, look at the lot sizes, I think, within a 500-foot circle, and is there a congruence or is there not? So although we don't enforce that restriction, we do have similar language in our zoning code that this body is empowered to enforce. As an aside, had the Land Use Control Board or the Planning Commission, since this subdivision predates the Land Use Control Board, had y'all put that condition on there, this would be before you as a modification, because if y'all had put that restriction on there, y'all could strike it, right? So this body could have placed that condition, but it would be much easier to get out of, quote unquote, for all parties involved.
So So it's not that we have to rule on a deed restriction, but it's the appropriateness of the compatibility of this as it pertains to what's surrounding the area now.
Yes, sir. And that word, that compatibility word, is the one that's found in the zoning code.
Okay. Any more questions at this time? Okay.
Now we'd like to call Dr. Lyons as applicant in rebuttal.
I will repeat that because whoever designed the audio here didn't want the people on the dais to be heard. So we're back to Mr. Smith and Dr. Lyons.
And my name is Dr. Theodore Lyons II, and we are at 8960 Forest Meadows. Just wanted to basically address one of the concerns that came up, and was specifically about the subdivision into the 2 and 3 acre lots. For one, I did not receive that covenant when I purchased the property. I signed all the documents, everything else, but I do not have that document at all. So I didn't know that when we started this process. When I talked with the developer, he also told me that this was something that had been done in that area before, and they had split a 5 acre lot into a 2 and 3 acre lot. So we proceeded with that as an understanding that this must be something that could be done. So I did not have that information. And then additional information that there had already been one that was subdivided. Since we moved there in 2005, and this is really what I really care about being on the record, since I moved there in 2005, my wife and I, who's Dr. Lyons, Dr. America Lyons, sitting right back there as well, we were the largest landowners there, save one other property that's 20 acres. Ours was 16, and we were Black. Still are Black today. We have experienced a lot of racist and unneighborly things that have happened since we've been there. Everything has been cited from Sheriff Department coming out, being called on us because we were shooting on our property like everyone else over there shoots on their property, and you can hear them pretty much every weekend during the summertime and early fall shooting, saying that shots were fired and calling the deputies out on us, and the deputies would come and say, no, you all are more than 300 yards off of this main street. You can shoot whatever you like. And I actually had a gun range that was put out there, and we only would shoot during holidays like the 4th of July, things like that. We have had 2 times I've had to appear in Judge Potter's court, environmental court. One, they mentioned about the trees being removed. Another time is because I was storing a friend of mine. He had a bus that he needed to have stored for a moment. So I had it on my property sitting about 100 yards back from the street, and you literally had to bend down to look through my tree line to see it. And they yet again had their friend that is in code enforcement cite me for that. Both times I've gone to Judge Potter's court, and I know he's retired now, but he basically said you can do what you want to on your property. He approved both things that happened there. Other than with the bus, he said that we had to move it because it was not on concrete or asphalt, which is the ordinance for that area. But what he said at that time, I take to heart, and it kept me from being so angry because my neighbors, as they are called, have trespassed on my property several times. And that time it was placed into the court record. They came on that property, and the gentleman that they sent to represent them said that he and another neighbor came on that property and tested the soil themselves to see that it was dry enough to move the bus at that time, trespassing on my property. Judge Potter, at that moment, he saw the anger that I had of having someone openly say that they trespassed on my property in his court. He said, Dr. Lyons, would you approach the bench? And I did. He said, just remain calm. I will take care of this. I am sorry that there are people who still behave like this at this time. We've had everything from trash, containers, condoms. Even when I just recently sold 5 acres to the Healy's, Deputy Healy and his wife, we were walking the property and we find beer cans, condoms, and condom wrappers that neighbors have thrown out as they go down because we are at the beginning of the subdivision. So I said all that to say simply, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of being told on my property what I can and cannot do. And whether this goes through or not, I want it on record that I have very racist and unneighborly neighbors. And that's all I really have to say about it.
Thank you very much. Any questions at this time? Any questions? Okay. Hearing none. That was the remainder of the rebuttal for the applicant. And so at this time, we're going to close the public portion of our meeting. At this time, we're closing the public portion, and I'm ready for a motion.
Move approval of agenda item number 8, S21-017CO.
Second.
Okay, it has been motioned, and now we have a second. Is there any discussion amongst our board members?
Yeah, J.C. McKinnon, I would like to say, just speaking my mind on this case and situation, is that I'm seeing what's happened in Nashville as far as the lots and the subdivisions of large parcels of property being not so attractive to the newer home buyers that are coming up in this generation, and so many acres are not as wanted or needed by that generation, almost not even a house in some cases. I like the idea of the subdivision of lots to make more homes, which of course as the economy needs right now with the supply and demand of housing. So for that reason, I will vote for this project. I'm not sure what you guys are thinking on that as well, but I do like the idea of smaller lots being able to make those homes proportionate as far as maybe not size, but from a value standpoint, it would raise what maybe appeared to be the rest of the neighborhood's values of homes in so many cases, especially with construction prices and things like that are happening right now. Like I said, it just goes back to demand. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, we might need a individual vote.
Mr. Fleming.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gill.
No.
No. Vice Chair Laswell.
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon.
Yes.
Dr. Pritchard.
Yes.
Mr. Tolles.
Yes.
Ms. Wilbanks.
No.
Chair Sharp.
Who you? I cannot hear. I am so sorry. Yes.
6 yea, 2 nay.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Agenda item number 9, S2021-020, East Memphis, 15-lot major subdivision at 524 McElroy. Staff recommendation is approval with one condition.
Item number what?
9.
That's staff report.
Okay, is the applicant present? Item number 9, applicant is present. Is there any opposition?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Then we will have a staff report. Thank you.
About not having the
Good afternoon, Seth Thomas with the Memphis-Shelby County Office of Planning and Development. The case before us is subdivision 21002. The applicant is Monroe Properties. The location is 524 McElroy Road, and the request is a 15-lot re-subdivision. Here's an aerial of the site. Here, hold on, let me start this presentation here. And then here's the site plan. So the request is a private gated subdivision. Both of the roads will be private, and the maintenance and costs of which will be covered by a proposed homeowners association. So in conclusion, this is a 15-lot re-subdivision of lots 8 and 9 of the McElroy subdivision, which was platted in 1919. The lots meet the bulk requirements of the residential single-family 6 district, and the subdivision is in character and compatible with the existing developments within the neighborhood. The proposed 15 lots are all between 7,500 and 11,400 square feet, each with a minimum front setback of 20 feet. The 2 existing parcels are legal lots of record and buildable. And as I mentioned before, the 2 streets proposed to be created as part of the subdivision will be gated and private, with the maintenance funded through a homeowners association. So staff is recommending approval with one condition, that condition being the proposed gate shall allow for 20 feet of queue space depth. That's per the City of Memphis Engineering Department's request. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Do we have any questions for Mr. Thomas at this time? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for the applicant. Name and address in your presentation, please.
My name is Robert Estes. I'm with Parker Estes and Associates, 3460 Ridge Meadow Parkway, Memphis 38115. We are in full agreement with everything that the staff has presented and any conditions that would be imposed upon this property. Like he said, this is zoned R6, which is a minimum of 6,000 square foot lots. Our lots in this development vary in size from 7,500 square feet to 12,500 square feet in size. With this development, I know that there is a drainage problem the neighbors have concerns with. We are proposing that we will pick up all the drainage that falls upon this property and carried in underground pipes to a proposed detention basin, which is shown on the plat itself as common open space detention. And it will be designed according to City of Memphis design standards on the release of the water into the existing 54-inch drain pipe that's located to the east of this property. That pretty much wraps up what I have to say. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer that.
Thank you. Have any questions of the applicant at this time? Okay, hearing none, I see we have one card of opposition here. Can you come up and give us your name and address, please?
Thank you for your time. I'm Kevin Doolin, 5379 Mesquite Road. I've lived in the neighborhood for 22 years. I'm probably going to be unusual opposition because if anybody was going to do this, these builders would be the ones that I'd want to do it. The main concern is I've lived here for 22 years. There is some runoff from existing parcels to the north. The development cannot impede any existing natural drainage. That's my biggest concern. I have problems already. It's manageable. I think this may be worse. They've addressed the concern that they're going to do something with it. No, it doesn't usually matter, but clear cutting this site's going to be like selling lots out of Overton Park. Hawks, kites, owls, bats, foxes, you name it, we got it. It's a little hidden gem in the neighborhood. 15 parcels is going to be a great addition and make property values go up, but really shouldn't be clear cut. As long as they'll address the drainage off the other properties, so be it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Doolin. Board members, any questions of the opposition? Okay, applicant, we're ready for your rebuttal, if you have any.
Well, like I said earlier, we plan on taking the drainage underground and deferring it to the detention basin, which will be built to City of Memphis engineering standards upon the release of the release of the water. This will be a dry bottom detention basin.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions of the applicant at this time? Okay, hearing none, this closes the public portion of our meeting. Dr. Pritchard, we're ready for a motion.
Move approval of agenda item 9, S2021-020.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Okay, is there any discussion?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Madam Chair, one of my concerns with this project is I think the staff's addressed it. If it does pass, the back of the building really faces Tillman, and the staff's recommendation is that if it is...
We're on number 9.
Oh, my gosh. No.
Yeah, we're on number 9.
I'm so sorry. Golly. Okay, I forget.
You did tell us you couldn't hear anything, so.
He said he was 100 earlier, so. But hey, I do have, I just wanted to say something to the applicant as well as the opposition, is that mainly towards the applicant is, hey, if you can work with your neighbor, drainage, that is an issue. It would cause real problems. If at all, please work with them to better, help that out, help a neighbor out.
Okay, back to the question. Any more discussion? Okay, no more discussion. Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Dr. Pritchard?
Well, here we are with Tillman. This agenda item number 12, PD 21-015, Binghamton Gas Station at the northwest corner of Tillman and Sam Cooper. Staff recommendation is rejection.
Okay.
Madam Chair, would you show me recused?
Okay. All right, we have one recusal. Okay, we are ready for the applicant. Are you present? Applicant? Okay, and this is rejection, so let's have a staff report.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Brett Davis with the Division of Planning and Development. I'll be presenting case number PD 21-15. This is an application for a special use permit for a planned commercial development named the Broad Avenue Plaza. Just some general information. This is located 2977 Broad, between Broad and Sam Cooper at Tillman. The owner is MVS Real Estate Midtown, LLC. The applicant is Spire Enterprises, represented by Mr. John Benke. The area is 1.6 acres, and the site is split zoned between residential 6, single family, and commercial mixed use 1, our lower intensity commercial mixed use zoning district. I also give a breakdown of the 3 different frontages this site has, as well as their designations. So Tillman and Sam Cooper are both classified as minor arterials in this location. Sam Cooper is not an expressway in this location, and Broad Avenue is the next designation down, a major collector. Here is the zoning map. So we see approximately, the red does not show up well, but we see approximately the southern third of the site is zoned, and we're looking here. This site here is zoned single-family residential. Here's the zoning boundary. Whereas this portion of the site, approximately the northern 2/3 along Broad, are zoned CMU 1. To the south is more residential zoning. To the west is commercial and residential. And then to the north and east are commercial zoning. The land use map mostly reflects that. So we see that the site is today vacant. To the west in pink, representing office, is a nonprofit medical clinic. We do see along Lipford Street here a full block face of single family residential homes. To the south, this has since been developed as a ballet house called Collage. Over here is a commercial strip retail center that was, I believe, developed by the neighborhood CDC and has since been handed over to EDGE, the Economic Development Growth Engine, a public nonprofit economic development agency. And then up north, we have a Valero gas station. So that's sort of just a quick overview of some of the land uses in the neighborhood. Here's the proposed conceptual site plan. So we have over here several retail bays, including a convenience store in the middle, and two retail bays on either side. This would face to the west, inward, with its back towards Tillman. Gas pumps in the middle, 4 pumps, or I guess 4 times 2. And then a proposed quasi-public plaza on the west. This body last year considered a street closure of Autumn Avenue down at the bottom. It was approved by City Council, although the right-of-way has not actually been vacated yet because the conditions have not been met. But that street vacation would need to be completed, and the purpose of that application was to to allow the applicant a curb cut onto Sam Cooper. So we see that there's one curb cut on Broad and one on Sam Cooper. The applicant has submitted proposed conceptual elevations. So take a look at some of these. A variety of different types of awnings, brick facades, except for this image at the top, which is the Tillman facade, which currently is proposed to be EFIS, exterior insulating finishing systems. There is additionally a clock tower proposed as part of the gas canopy. That's shown here. Here are some renderings submitted by the applicant showing that interior facing facade, the plaza, and the clock tower gas canopy. And there are several more renderings included in your staff reports. This is a staff-generated table that compares gas stations per capita, the incidence of gas stations per capita in Memphis to sister cities, including 2 of the other larger cities in the state and other cities and towns within Shelby County. So you see here that compared to those sister cities and to the U.S. As a whole, Memphis has fewer vehicles per household average than any of them. However, it has more gas stations per capita than the United States in general, than all of our other Shelby County municipalities, except for Millington, which exceeds Memphis's rate. It has more per capita than Nashville and is on par with Knoxville. But overall, the picture is we do have quite a few gas stations as compared to our sister municipalities and the nation as a whole. Okay, so in conclusion, Spire Enterprises has requested a special use permit for a planned commercial development with gas pumps. The purpose of this, number 1, is to allow gas pumps, and number 2 is just to allow commercial in general along that southern residential portion. Let's see. The site is also partially overlaid with a 2015 plan development that ties the land, including most of the residential portion of the land, to CMU1 zoning. However, no outline or final plan was ever recorded. So that PD approval is set to expire in December of this year. The present request does concern a slightly greater area than the 2015 approval, so this plan development might be necessary anyway. The applicant did attempt to get a final plan recorded for a gas station before this original PD expired. However, in February of this year, the Memphis City Council and the Shelby County Board of Commissioners approved a zoning text amendment that restricted gas pumps in the CMU1 district. And in the process, made it impossible for the applicant to develop a gas station under the 2015 PD, which had tied the land to CMU1 zoning. Today, no gas pumps are permitted by right in the CMU1 district, and any proposed gas pumps in that district require legislative approval. The purpose of the amendment, the zoning text amendment, was, one, to bring the CMU1 district's permitted uses closer in line with its intent, according to its district intent statement, as a neighborhood-oriented zone in which, quote, auto-oriented uses are not appropriate, and two, to address Memphis's high rate of gas stations, as we just discussed. In addition, there is currently a citywide moratorium on new gas pumps to allow the council time to study this latter matter regarding our high rate of gas stations. Of course, if City Council approved this plan development, that would render the moratorium not applicable to this development. Now just going over again some of these adjacent land uses, the subject site is less than 30 feet from single-family houses within a single-family residential zoning district. To its west, it's just across the street from an existing convenience store with gas sales, which from staff's perspective is sort of a count against its favor, as well as the other uses I described earlier in that final statement, in that first bullet point. I also mentioned that there is, commercial development going on in the area right now, including the nearby Hampline Brewery, which opened earlier this year. What I didn't mention before is the just completed Hampline, part of the city's signature bicycle corridor, which wraps around this site on Broad and Tillman. And staff does have potential concerns regarding the high amount of traffic coming in and out on the Broad frontage in terms of bicyclist safety. So to wrap up, given recent policy changes regarding gas sales in the CMU1 district, the site's adjacency to both single-family houses and existing gas pumps, the character of recent development activity in the area, and the site's location on the Hampline, staff finds that an upzoning for the purpose of permitting gas sales does not meet the approval criteria. Finally, it's clear that the applicant really wants to, do this project right. That said, we did have some concerns about the design. Staff had serious concerns about the back of the building fronting Tillman as proposed, and we have included several conditions that would essentially require a redesign of the site plan. I believe the applicant is okay with all of those recommended conditions, so I don't need to go into too much detail, but essentially it would eliminate the plaza, put the convenience store to the west, and make sure that the retail on the eastern side of the site was facing Tillman. So with that, staff is recommending rejection, but we do have several outline plan conditions that we recommend if approved. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions of Mr. Davis at this time from the board members? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for the applicant. Name, address, and your 10-minute presentation, please.
John Benke, 1164 Brookfield, Memphis, Tennessee. Madam Chairman, members of the board, it's a privilege to be before you. This kind of looks all uphill from where I sit, and maybe from the audience, but we have worked very hard to create a aesthetically pleasing development on this property. Mr. Davis, could you put up, go down a little bit further to the front of the retail shops? You have the color of that by any chance? Actually, that's good right there. That's good right there.
It's in the staff report.
Yep, that's fine. One of the first things I did before I ever applied, let me back up with just a little bit of background. When we first started this, it was last summer, and one of the first things we were needing to do based on a requirement from engineering was get a waiver for the right-of-way along Sam Cooper and around Tillman. That took a couple of months. Then it became clear we needed to do the street closure, and then I came before you late last year. I think we had the vote back in January, went to City Council, then autumn was closed, so that not only us, but anybody that's going to develop this property, if it ends up not being us, they will have needed that street closure, so that's done for the future, regardless of how this plays out. Before I ever started making application, I reached out to all the key players in this area. I reached out to Noah Gray at Binghamton CDC. I reached out to Reverend Keith Norman at First Baptist, Reverend Rosamond Randall at Mount Zion, and Christ Community. In all cases, either have no objection or, in some cases, enthusiastic support for this project. So I took some of what they were telling me and integrated it into this plan. And if you look at the architectural design, what I did is I had the architect go down Broad Avenue and asked him to capture the design elements from the 1920s, 30s, and 40s that are in those buildings down in the what I call the Arts District to the west. Then I asked for something not conventional on the fuel canopy. And so we came up with the clock tower design that you saw earlier. It's in your packet. Things that you don't see, we added bike racks, a bike repair station. It will have 4 to 6 retail shops. We also added 2 outdoor seating. This was at the height of COVID, but we think it's just good business to have outdoor seating. People like it. Having said all that, we do agree with staff's recommendation for a redesign which kind of keeps the core components of this project, but actually makes it better. When Mr. Davis told me about it, I ran it by my client, and we like it. So what it does, could you put up the site plan, please? So I'm just describing it my way, but we will work for staff upon approval. So basically, we're going to eliminate the community plaza, split the retail center on the east, and create a plaza in a breezeway in the middle, which would have 2 outdoor seating areas. And I think, do you have your inspiration?
In the staff report.
Okay, in your packet, there's an inspiration photo which gives you a concept of how this could change. We're in agreement with it. We actually think it makes the plan better. I'll close with this. Normally, I would have 50 people behind me in opposition. Save one email, we have no opposition on this project from neighbors and from community leaders. So I only mention that because I'm hoping you will see that as proof that we did a lot of groundwork before we ever started this project. We think it will be a beautiful addition to that corner of Broad, Tillman, and Sam Cooper. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Benke at this time? Any questions? Okay, hearing none, and there's no opposition, then we're going to close the public portion of this meeting. Dr. Pritchard?
Move approval of agenda item 12, PD 21-015.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Now that I'm on the correct case, there was a reason that happened, but I just want to commend Mr. Benke for every step you took. That, you know, whether this passes or fails, I don't know, but I just want to thank you for reaching out to Pastor Norman, Noah Gray, all the players in that area. That's the right way to do things. I really, really appreciate you doing that. I also appreciate the fact that you read the minds of everybody here and have proactively proposed a different solution. Not being able to see the exact solution, I think the spirit of what you're trying to achieve is pretty clear to me. So I really appreciate that. And again, I don't know if this is going to pass or fail, but I want to commend you for that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
So, thank you for the question. It's a good question. The moratorium really especially affects those gas stations that would be by right. If you would be a by right gas station with the moratorium in place, it requires you to get council approval. For those developments that would already require council approval, the process progresses as if there were no moratorium in place, and we would simply put an extra line in the council resolution stating that this property were exempt from the moratorium.
Any more questions? Any more discussion? Any more questions? Okay, we're going to close the public portion of this meeting, and we've already had a motion. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, no more discussion. I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Dr. Pritchard?
Madam Chair, our next item is agenda item number 14, PD 2021-018, Whitehaven, Film Studios Hotel and Event Center on the west side of Elvis Presley Boulevard, south of Holmes Road, and north of Skife, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Road. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
Is the applicant present? Okay, so we do have a speaker on this, so what we're going to do is have an abbreviated staff report.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Brian Barkers with the Office of Planning and Development, and to other members who are present. This is an application for the Black Lens Production Films Studio Plan Development located in the Whitehaven area, just approximately 20 miles from where we are today. This plan development is to allow a mixed-use plan for film studios production campus on 85 acres that's currently zoned residential R8 district, and also commercial in a small portion along Elvis Presley Boulevard that's zoned for commercial mixed use 3. As you can see, this is the planning area. Is this southwest portion or the southwest quadrant of two major roads, Elvis Presley Boulevard and East Holmes Road. The primary entrance to the development plan will be from Mary Jane Avenue and Elvis Presley Boulevard. This is the zoning map of the area. The partial is outlined in the fuchsia color. As you can see, there's a major transmission easement running that bifurcates this partial, which is 85 acres owned by Mr. Jason Farmer. The current zoning, as I stated earlier, is R8, and in a small portion along East Elvis Presley Boulevard is zoned commercial mixed use 3. This land use map shows the land use in the area. The yellow to the north is primarily single-family residential. You have subdivisions to the east as well, with institutional uses for places of worship. To the south along Scaife Road, you have large estate lots that are single-family residential estate homes. The concept plan for this area, Madam Chairman, members of the board, is a primary interest to the development site from Mary Jane Avenue. There will be a private drive running through the subject site to create 3 areas, Area A, Area B, and Area C. The land uses are to your right of the legend in the staff report. The concept plan reveals that the housing will be along the Scaife Road side of the development to allow for a transition between a large lot residential, and the balance of the property will be developed as stated on the legend. You have a hotel as well as warehouse uses, an event center, and other ancillary uses that will be compatible to the film studio's production. We've reviewed the application for request for mixed-use plan. I will not read those conclusions for you, but we are primarily in agreement with the application as recommended by the applicant. And I want to call your attention to item number 4. We were concerned about a buffer along the Dueling Oak subdivision. We believe that buffer should have been increased to 75 feet, but we have agreed to amend that portion of the development to allow for 35 feet. They have demonstrated to us that the building height in that area will not exceed 35 feet, and the horizontal distance between single-family homes will be over 95 to 100 feet. We recommended approval with conditions. The conditions on pages 11 through 13. This project is consistent with the Memphis 3.0. It supports the goals of the City of Memphis Comprehensive Plan. As stated earlier, this is the graphic that shows the horizontal distance between a White House building and the Dueling Oak subdivisions for lots 41, 42, and 43. The applicant has agreed to enhance the landscaping along this area and also to maximize the building height at 35 feet. The mutual agreements or friendly amendments, as Mr. Josh Whitehead has mentioned, these are in red, and we have handed a copy of those amendments out to you to address those concerns that we had about the distance to the Dueling Oak subdivision. With that said, Madam Chairman, we are recommending approval with conditions. The applicant placed signs on the site. They also had a neighborhood Zoom meeting. They met the requirements of the UDC. We received one email asking about the site. She was primarily concerned about what was going on. We communicated with her and forwarded that email to the applicant. And I believe she's in agreement. She was an adjacent property owner. And with that, Madam Chairman, we did not receive any emails in opposition, but we received approximately 30 letters of support. I also handed those support letters out to you this morning. Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bacchus.
Thank you.
Board members, do we have any questions of Mr. Bacchus at this time?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to make a comment. I think Mr. Bacchus has done a great job in protecting the residents and the community with his buffers, because there's a actually natural buffer in that area. In fact, it's really grown up, it's matured. And I think you've done an excellent job in your conditions in protecting the residents, from this development.
Thank you, Mr. Toll. However, I want to congratulate the applicant as well. They were amenable to that as well, and they provided the concept plan to us, and we agree with the concept plan. Thank you, Mr. Toll. Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, applicant, we're ready for your presentation. Name and address and presentation.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. Dedrick Brittenham. My address is 3385 Airways Boulevard, Suite 229, with the Memphis zip code of 38116. It's good to be back in person and good to see that all of you are well. Madam Chair, did you say that there is opposition to this case?
We have one letter of opposition, right?
Well, for the record, I agree with staff, Mr. Bacchus, that the applicant agrees to the amendments to the conditions. We're in full agreement with that. And Board Member Tolles, our number one priority was the subdivision to the northwest. We want to make sure, because many of those people are friends of the applicant, and we want to make sure we protected that particular neighborhood. Perhaps this is a bit unusual, but since you have one card of opposition, I'm going to yield my position right now to the opposition to find out the nature of the opposition before I present.
Okay.
If Madam Chair agrees.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions of Mr. Brittenham at this time? Okay, we're ready for the opposition. Name and address.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary and members of the board. My name is Charles Belenke. My address is 995 Eccles Street. Let me just say, overall, I think this is a good idea, but I think there are some problems. One problem is that they have not gotten the sign-off from the engineering department that what they're proposing to build can be connected to the sewers. We could find ourselves in a very uncomfortable situation. Now, this may simply be due to the fact that the applicant has not submitted an estimate, a proposal for the sewer discharge rate. And if he did, then the engineers would say it was fine. Or it may be that because of ongoing litigation with Horn Lake, that the city really doesn't have the capacity for this project. But until that's resolved, I don't think this matter should be decided. I think it should be put over. Another concern, and it's a minor concern, is that when I looked at the posting of the signs in the neighborhood, I had a problem with the documents. There's an affidavit saying that the signs were posted, and the affidavit has a notary stamp, but the notary's commission expired before the date of the affidavit, as I read it. Now, I could be misreading it. It could be a typo. It might not be important, but I did want to bring that to your attention. So, assuming that we're going to go forward, I have some suggestions for additional conditions that I think will vastly improve this project. The first is condition 4, subsection C, talks about preserving existing mature trees along the south boundaries. I would ask that that be expanded to include preserving mature trees in all of the setbacks, the 35 feet all the way around. Section 7H, the 5 years to come back with a final plan, I think, is too long. They haven't got something to show us in 3 or 4. We should be asked to vote again. Additionally, I would like to see that any planting be of native or non-invasive species. Some of you may have heard of situations where people plant beautiful-looking things and then they just go wild and they eat up the natural habitat. I mean, I'm pleased to see how much of this preserves the natural habitat. But I would like to see a few other things. For example, the paving and the pedestrian walkways, not the roads, but the parking areas could be made with porous surfaces so that we're reducing the stormwater runoff, and that's a proven technology. I'd like to see the nature trails dedicated so that they're open to the public as opposed to just being nature trails for the employees. I'd like it explicitly stated that truck ingress and egress shall be through Elvis Presley only. Those are my major concerns. And as you know, you're being asked to approve a very, very conceptual plan. And it's not, when they come back, it may look nothing like this, and yet it'll still be within the concept. So I think that at minimum, we should ask that they have the sewer approval, and we should impose some of these, what I feel are reasonable conditions to improve the quality of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you come up, we're going to ask, are there any questions of Mr. Belenky at this time?
No questions, Mr. Belenky, but just wanted to state something. Most of all of the plans that come before us are conceptual. I do understand your concern about that as well. We can't control the whole project to its fruition. However, we do say what comes before us is part of what we say yes to. But after today, I mean, nothing much that we could do for that project to stop it or say, hey, you're not doing something that's beyond our power here at the board. Just wanted to state that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've seen a fair number of these applications.
Madam Chair, this is not a question and answer period.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
I was giving the board a chance to ask him questions, though, because he was the opposition. Okay, and you're saying question answer. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're ready for the applicant, and since you didn't take all of your time, you have an extended amount for your rebuttal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to thank the staff, Mr. Bacchus and Mr. Whitehead and Mr. Saliba. They worked with us to get this project to the position it's in now, where we're in agreement. So they expended the time and effort to work with us, and we very much appreciate it. Here today representing the applicant is Mr. Jason Farmer. He's here, and he's going to show you a slideshow in a few minutes of the project. I want to let the board know that we have a development team that's top-notch. The architects are HBG. The engineering firm is the Reeves firm. There's a development consultant, New Dev, and the contractor is Montgomery Martin. Just a short history about the site. This is a vacant site and raw land. It was approved as a planned development in 1993 by the City Council for a subdivision. The applicant was Wayman Welch, and the attorney was Herschel Feibelman. So over the years from 1993 to present, there has been no development on this land whatsoever. Now, the original parcel, the northern part, was developed as a school, which is the Holmes Road. There's a school on the northern track now, which is Holmes Road. And on the south it's bounded on the south by Scafee Road. Otherwise, it's a completely raw, vacant property. Now, why is it suitable for this type of development? It's approximately 85 acres. And most studio lots throughout the country and in parts of the world are very large parcels. The one in Atlanta is over 300 acres. This is 85 acres. The film studio lot requires a large footprint. As Mr. Bacchus said, there will be several studio buildings, commissary, hotel. There's a storage facility for props. This is really a true first-class film lot development, and it will put Memphis on the map for filming and TV commercials and that sort of activity. It's a wonderful development. Now, and one of the points that the opposition brought up, I want to speak to. Film lots are for many reasons must be have high levels of seclusion, and on this particular lot, the site plan, the only entrance is on Elvis Presley, off of Elvis Presley, Mary Jane Avenue, and then there's an entrance on the south, but that's for the residential portion of the site. So there are only two access points to this entire site. It's for the reasons of limiting the noise, the privacy that is associated with a film lot, and then we're going to continue to have the foliage, particularly along the northern boundary, the northwest boundary with the neighborhood. We have natural man-made buffers here with the school on the north, with the Walmart Center on the east. There's a railroad track on the west, and then you have on the south, you have the Scafee Road. So we have natural buffers to offer seclusion for this particular site. Now, in closing, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Jason Farmer, and he's going to take you through a slideshow.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for hearing our project this morning. Before I start, I'd like to ask the members of the team that are here to support the project. We have several members here this morning. And ask everyone with the project to please stand. These are members of the professional team, also members of BLP and community support, and my family as well. So thank you for coming this morning. This project was actually born out of, my son is in the rear. Jason, would you please stand? He's currently an honor student, film student at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. He started to endeavor to be a filmmaker when he was about 9 or 10 years old, and we had no idea what that encompassed. So we started reaching out, trying to figure out how we could help him on his journey to become a filmmaker. In the process, it led to us doing several years of research and looking at other models around the country and trying to figure out how we could take the natural resources of Memphis and create the kind of environment here and build out an ecosystem so we wouldn't just get projects that were a good fit for Memphis, but we can in fact become an epicenter for film and TV projects from around the world. I'm sorry, I digress. My two business partners here also, I need Carolyn Henry Nelson, is my CFO and partner, and Cecilia Barnes, our general counsel and partner. And that's who you see on the slide before you. That's some brief bios on us. Collectively, we've known each other for about 30 years. They both come out of corporate America, 25 to 30 years. They both said they started in corporate America when they were about 15 years old. So you can do the short math on that. Most recently, both working with Fortune 50 corporations here. My progression primarily growing up as a member of grew up in the Foot Homes housing projects not far from here. Eventually moved out to the Westwood Whitehaven area, graduated from Whitehaven High School, and served in the Marine Corps for 6 years. Earned several decorations there, including a combat veteran. Came back to Memphis and worked in several government capacities, most recently as a small business owner for the last 20 years. This is an overview of the campus, and what we have is, as Attorney Bidram stated, we have 12 sound stages of varying sizes between 20,000 square feet and 40,000 square feet, a hotel that will service the property, an event center, an executive office building, a prop storage building, a mill shop, editing suites, commissary/gift shop, on-site housing, and the natural tree line buffer. Again, as Mr. Britnam stated, a lot of the residents that live in that Dueling Oaks subdivision were my classmates in high school and throughout college. So we went door to door to meet with all the residents to let them know what we were doing and to also assure them that we would not encroach on their property and their privacy in the neighborhood. And they were in full support of the development.
Excuse me, Mr. Farmer, you have 1 minute.
Yes, ma'am.
About a minute and a half left.
This is an aerial view of the site, and what you see here is the hotel. This building here with an event center. The large buildings over to the right are 6 sound stages. We have an additional 6 sound stages here in the rear. This is the Dueling Oaks subdivision at the top of the page. This is one of the lower height buildings. This is our prop storage warehouse, which is 30 to 35 feet. This is a mill shop where we actually construct props for the sites on location. This will be our new office building here. These are editing suites, and this is the commissary gift shop. And you see parking out in this area. And what you can't see from here is there's a walking trail throughout the entire property. And also, as Mr. Britnam stated, just for security purposes and the types of equipment and the people that move throughout the property, unfortunately, the walking trail can't be open to the public, but it is an access for the projects that are on for exercise purposes and relaxation purposes. This is the entryway to the front gate leading off of Elvis Presley. And we were intentional not to have any traffic coming through the Dueling Oaks subdivision. There will be one entry back there that will be gated for emergency vehicles. Thank you for your time. And there's just an additional slide. I think you have it in your handout that talks about the amount of jobs and the economic impact for the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very excited to work on this project and really pleased to represent the applicants. So I'd like to ask that the board approve this this case with conditions as recommended by the staff and in agreement with the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, Madam Chair. I have a little concern about your RV and recreational area. I know you haven't identified that yet, but on your RV parking, have you decided where that would be? Would it be farther in the back near the railroad track or someplace like that?
Yes, sir. Board Member Toles. The RV parking is traditionally near the, it's not a traditional RV park where there will be 20 or 30 RVs parked there. Sometime when major stars come in, the areas where you see the sound stages, it will be in the regular parking spaces. And as defined by the coding definition of 500 feet, right. Those properties are 500 feet and those parking spaces are 500 feet from any residential areas around the property.
All right, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, hearing none, we're going to close the public portion of this meeting. Dr. Pritchard.
Move approval of agenda item number 14, PD 21-018.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and second. Do we have any discussion?
I was just going to say how much I love this use on this site, and I applaud this applicant and their entrepreneurship. I'd also like to point out that Mr. Belenke lives 13 miles away in East Memphis, not in Whitehaven. So that's it. I think I look forward to supporting this use.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
The things we do for our kids. Congratulations, and I look forward to seeing this come to fruition. I mean, we still have a vote, y'all, but but nonetheless, I like this, and I also agree with Brown that it is a great use, and I'm looking forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, board members.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Dr. Pritchard.
One last case is 17 SUP 2021-011 downtown parking garage on the block bounded by South Front, Peabody Place, South Main Street, and Beale Street. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
Is the applicant present? The applicant is present, and we do have one card in opposition, so we will now have an abbreviated presentation from our staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeffrey Penzis, Planning and Development. This is SUP 2021-011. The applicant is the Downtown Memphis Commission, and the request is for a parking garage. So this is located in downtown. 158 notices were mailed on May 27, 2021. And as we can see from the zoning map, this is on the Central Business District. And from the land use map, we can see that it's surrounded by commercial, multifamily, and then there's some office and institutional in the area. And these are just some site photos. Currently, it's a surface parking lot. And this is the concept plan. The area outlined in yellow just represents a portion of the site that the applicant intends to request to be vacated, which note this section of right-of-way may be closed administratively as excess right-of-way subject to the approval of the city real estate department. And these are just some elevations of the facility. The proposed facility has a ground floor retail space for restaurants, retail, and bicycle retail / storage component with showers and lockers. And there will be approximately 960 parking spaces in the garage nestled amongst these uses and will be screened from public view. This is just the Memphis 3.0 showing the future land use map as anchor neighborhood urban, and that this is consistent with the Memphis 3.0 plan. And with that, staff recommends approval with these two conditions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for the staff at this time? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for the presentation from the applicant. Name, address, and your presentation, please.
Jason Weeks, 5656 Bucksbriar, Memphis, Tennessee 38120.
Okay.
So, first of all, I think the big piece of this is it's not a parking garage. Parking is a component of it, but we refer to it as a mobility center because of all the key aspects that we have within this project. So, we mentioned the retail, a lot of opportunities within this project for Main Street retail and activation, also restaurant space that we see that's in that southwest corner of the project. That mobility component comes into play with adding, having opportunities for the Lyft, the Ubers of the world where we are now, providing that connection for downtown. This is a heavily trafficked site and location. Also the bicycle component, having a bicycle mobility area too. So it's like a rental type, a monthly subscription that you would come in and you utilize their showers. Those are not open to the public. That is a controlled space. Also an opportunity for bike retail, where we see that people need to service their bikes, things like that. So also the trolley line is right in front of us. We are redoing that trolley, which is the more upgraded version that you're seeing up and down Main Street as projects come online. And then we are on a bike line, and we are on the bus line as well. So that's really the big piece of this. It is not just a garage. Parking is a component of it. We, I guess, at this time would say let's hear what the opposition is.
Okay, thank you. Any questions at this time of the applicant? Okay, we're ready for the opposition. Mr. Belenke.
Good morning again. Charles Belenke, 995 Eccles Street. This is a giant parking garage. It is totally out of scale with the Orpheum Theater, with other buildings in the area. What is the message we're giving to people when the biggest public construction project in our core downtown area is a 6-story parking garage? There's no need for all these parking spaces. You may remember the Peabody Mall, which became Service Master, which became Terminex. Now they're vacating. There are floors with a dozen people and 20,000 square feet. There's no need for this parking space. If you look at the actual use of the parking spaces in the lots on Peabody Place and around on 2nd, they're terribly underutilized. That wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the fact that the public is on the hook to pay for this massive parking garage. It is not connected to bus rapid transit, something that we say we want. It's not connected to MATA's bus terminal, which is closer to the convention center and might be a better location for this. Even MLGW is downsizing their staff. And has a parking garage next to the Halloran. There's not a need for something this big. If they were proposing a 2 or 3 story structure, that would be a different thing. But it's so much bigger and more massive than the Orpheum and other buildings in the area that I think that this needs to be rethought. There's a reference to a trip generation report. That's part of the analysis that has to be submitted before construction can begin. Again, I think that's something that this board needs to see before they decide to really dump some huge thing in the middle of our best part of downtown. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of Mr. Belenky?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question. Mr. Belenky, what over here, you live on Eccles?
Yes, in the Sherwood Forest neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make the comment that the DMC, City of Memphis, has performed, I'm sure the applicant's going to point this out, and this isn't a question, thank you, you can sit down now, have provided numerous studies on the need for downtown parking and consolidating parking structures. This is the result of a massive comprehensive plan. So I want the board to be aware of that this is just not some hip shot project. This is part of an overall master plan that LRK has been a part of. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to say I served on that board for about 10 years myself, so I remember there being a need, vast need for parking downtown. Okay, is there any other questions at this time? We're going to close the public portion of this meeting. And
Madam Chair, we do have a rebuttal period first.
I'm sorry.
If you'd like to use it.
Thank you very much. So the DMA, as Mr. Fleming had mentioned, is part of this big study, the bigger aspects of parking in downtown and looking at the needs that we currently have. So that was a comprehensive study that was done. We also met with all of the neighborhoods, all the neighbors around this project and approached that. If they had the parking on this site that they request, we would be almost 2 times the size of this. There's a great need for parking downtown. We're all aware of that. The project is scaled to the surrounding, Main Street facade. We don't want to overpower. We want to be a complementary piece to this new development, become a complementary piece to the downtown core.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Any further questions? Okay, hearing none, we're going to close the public portion of this meeting.
Move approval of agenda item number 17, SUP 2021-011.
Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and we heard a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion amongst our board members? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And that is the last case that we have on the agenda. And we want to ask our Mr. Whitehead, is there anything else that we need to know at this time before we close this meeting?
I found a gavel on Amazon.com, so next time you'll have a gavel.
Thank you so much. Meanwhile, my knuckles are hurt. Meeting adjourned.